All right, hi everyone. Thanks to those who are joining us live. And I know a lot of you will also be watching this recording over the weekend and early next week. My name is Alex Devereaux. I'm the Director of Growth Capital at Snowball Effect, and I'm facilitating this offer for GoodFor. Hopefully by now you've all seen the IM for GoodFor. If you haven't, it's still available on the Snowball Effect website under live offers and in the GoodFor offer page. The structure of the session today with James and Georgie will be a quick trading update for the business for April and May, and then a quick overview and background of the business, and then a presentation about the growth plans. Before we get started, we will be saving as much time as possible for your questions, so we really encourage you to send us those. You can do that by entering them into the Ask a Question tab at the bottom of your window, and you can also vote up the other questions that you want answered as well, and we'll answer those ones first. Also worth mentioning, because there's quite a few new people to Snowball Effect engaged in this offer, if you would like any more information about the investment process or help completing your investment, you can email me at alex@snowballeffect.co.nz. All right, I'll hand it over to James and Georgie from GoodFor to give you an update of the business from April and May.
Thanks very much, Alex, and thanks for all being on the call today, everyone. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully we can debunk a lot of the questions you've got after you've read the IM. I'm James, this is Georgie. Georgie and I are co-founders of GoodFor, but we're also, almost husband and wife. Georgie's my fiance. We've got a couple of boys at home, and we've been together since the beginning of university about 15 years ago. So I want to take you guys through a presentation. Let's get onto that now. Yeah, so since the IM was created, we have had a couple of months of trading. So I'll just give you a quick business update. Our April and May sales numbers were up on our forecast for this year, 4% and 8% respectively. Our online system, which we've just started to put a lot of effort into, April was down because it wasn't quite set up, but May we're 20% up, which is showing some pretty good traction on the changes we've made. Our Everyday Essentials range continues to bring in new customers into the store, which has brought our active customer base from 13,000 up to 13,700 and growing. And the online side of things over the last couple of months is showing some really good traction.
Just while you're on that, James, just so everyone on the call is clear, the graph on the left, the grey bar is forecast for April, and then the green bar is actuals, and then the same for May, and then separate for online sales. Hope that makes sense.
Cheers. Yeah, so GoodFor's mission is to advance the world to a circular economy. We're focused on the pantry. We want to make it so that consumers can drastically reduce their packaging, their plastic packaging and food waste when they shop, create space in their lives, and ultimately we want to build a healthier and better environment for the future. So Georgie and I, the story of GoodFor started about 5 years ago. Georgie and I were working on other businesses that we'd built. And through these businesses and a lot of other external factors, we became acutely aware of the environmental issues our world faces, in particular plastic packaging. And we decided, because business is so bloody hard, that we may as well put our efforts into a business that's doing good for the world, doing good for the environment, and working towards a healthier and better environmental future. So this ended up coming in the framework of dreaming up a network of refilling stores where the everyday consumer can come in and shop plastic free and create less food waste, create more space in their lives, and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, we very quickly learned that we had to build trust with our customers. So the best way for us to do this was through the aesthetics of the store, as well as through the product range, with a huge focus on health and nutrition. And then through the journey of parenthood over the past 4 years, it became even more important to us to build a sustainable business and something that our boys could be proud of and build a better future for them. So,
yeah, we ultimately want to see our boys grow up in a healthier environment, and one that they can see a more positive future in front of them. So the problem we're trying to tackle is the plastic packaging problem. We currently live in this linear system where we're creating plastic packaging out of fossil fuels, we're putting food in it, we're ripping it open, we're chucking the plastic packaging in the bin, and as a result, as a globe, we're creating 8.3 billion tons of plastic waste annually, and that's an unsustainable process. Then there's the unsustainable food production side of things. We're creating majority of our food through unsustainable practices, depleting our soil health, and we have to change that. We have to move towards a more organic side of things. And then we're creating all this food, but we're also creating 1.3 billion tons of food waste annually, based on how the consumer system is set up right now, and that absolutely needs to change, considering there's millions of people that are without food. So the GoodFor solution there is through our bricks and mortar stores. Customers can come in and they can shop completely waste-free if they do it right. Plastic packaging waste, food waste, and then 80% of our products are organic, certified organic, and sustainably grown. So that side of things allows for the unsustainable food production problem to be solved. And then the way the system works, the GoodFor system, we're ultimately in the pantry space, and setting up the framework of your pantry for refilling means, setting up glass jars and containers and getting into that refilling system. But what comes with that and the way you shop in GoodFor is you can choose as much or as little as you like, and you can see your food in your pantry and have more visibility, and it leads to less food waste. And on our side as a business, because we're in the ambient pantry space, and the way our system is set up, we actually have less than 1% food waste in our business, and that less than 1% actually goes to compost. It's not wasted. So we see a world where that environmental choice can be chosen without compromising on anything: price, ease, convenience. That's what we're working towards. We want to build two brands slowly in GoodFor as globally recognized brands that are leaders in the sustainability movement. And those brands for us need to be deeply trusted for the quality of their product and having a beautiful shopping experience. So where we are right now is we've been going for 4 years. We've learned 4 years of retail. We've gone through that process of understanding how that works. We now have a really clear vision on where we want to take the business. We've got this network of 6 stores and a distribution centre with this online channel going throughout the country. We had 5.3 million in revenue last year, showing some really good traction. Our customer base is now at 13,700 active customers, and that's growing steadily. And we've got a really great team for growth. We've got 80 staff, and from the 4-hour week person to our head office full-timers, we're all aligned and we're ready to take on this next journey. We've also got a great set of external advisors, Advisory Works, Uli, who's been with us for a year, and Ben Dando from Kamakola, and we'll be taking on an independent director as well. So we're really set up for this next phase. Some of the key learnings we've had over the last 4 years is, we've opened a lot of these GoodFor store locations, and we've learned through that process what locations work, because we've gone through some locations that haven't worked. In particular, we opened a store in New Lynn, which was in a shopping mall environment, and we wanted to test whether that worked. And we quickly realized that wasn't the GoodFor environment, and we're trying to build a scalable model, so we quickly exited that. And we also opened a test store in Mount Eden Village. It was a smaller format store with less SKUs. We wanted to see how that worked in that setting, and we ultimately had only signed a 1-year lease on it, and it was what really was a test, and it didn't work, and we decided to move on. Advisory has been a big learning for us. Only in the last year have we started getting some true external advice, and it's been game-changing for us. And we see that as being one of the core pillars going forward, having that governance and advice at hand 24/7 to take us through the next phase. And then team culture, that's been really challenging. We've got an amazing team culture now. We've got a really high net promoter score, way above industry average. And the importance of that team culture aligning directly reflects the performance of the business. And we feel like we understand how to make that work on scale. I think more than anything, the last 4 years have been about R&D. We've tested so many different things. We've looked at so many different options, and we've now got this laser focus on where we want to go. We're in the pantry space. We want to make this package-free pantry, this refilling system in the pantry, the cultural norm, and that focus has given us that clarity to take it to the next step. So our growth strategy, with this money, we want to grow in 4 areas: our existing stores, our 2.0 stores, our online, and our containers. So I'll take you through the containers, which I think a lot of questions have come up about these. Containers are essentially the backbone of a GoodFor shopper. Once you've set up your pantry and you have that organisation and that structure, that infrastructure of containers in your pantry, by default you kind of start your GoodFor way of life of refilling. And we've always seen an opportunity to create some really world-class containers that are built for the long term, something that you're really proud of. They have creativity in them, and ultimately you're really proud to show them in your pantry. So we've designed an initial set of containers that are going to come through the brand Slowly. Slowly is going to be its own website. It's very much a direct consumer e-commerce brand, and the way that will come through a retail store is in the GoodFor stores with our audience who are going to love these. We know that. You can come in and you can see the containers, you can see what a displayed pantry looks like, you can touch them and feel them, and you can actually interact with the website in the stores. And if you like them, you can go and buy them at the counter, but they get sent to your house through the distribution centre. So it's very much a hands-off operational business, all 3PL. We're looking to take these through New Zealand and then take them on to Australia and further afield to America and the world. We've set up the model to be very scalable. We're building the lids and the seals for the containers in New Zealand using a really sustainable regenerated product. And then the glass is being manufactured in China to begin with, because we have an existing relationship with a manufacturer over there that we know produces quality. So we're really excited about the containers. I know it seems like a different business, but actually GoodFor and the container business Slowly are very intertwined. They support one another, and we feel like we can execute this, and we're really excited to do that. Then there's the 2.0 stores. So throughout the 4 years, all of our learnings, we have developed a concept store, which is the 2.0 store. It basically gets rid of all the issues that we hear from our customers, as well as expands on that shop that is still focused on your pantry. So the stores are going to have 200 plus more SKUs. They're going to be very much focused on that pantry setup. Right now you can walk into a GoodFor store and you wouldn't know that we sell a lot of glass jars that you set your pantry up with, but this will be front and center, getting that framework set up for customers. They're double in size, so there's a lot more room. They're first timer friendly. A lot of our customers come in and they're not sure what to do. This allows them to come and interact with our brand and actually take our brand home with them through prepackaged goods. They're toddler friendly for mums and dads who want to bring in their young kids and not worry about them touching the food or jumping into a bin. They're omni-channel focused, so for customers who don't live around the stores, they're going to be able to walk out of that store and they're going to know that we have an amazing online system for them, and that'll be kind of firmly entrenched in the stores. And then they're really experiential. So we've tested this in our Nelson store, but there's going to be a lot more ceremony in the stores, which is going to add to that experience. And in general, they're just going to be really easy. There's more space, more things to do around the stores. And then, the third big element is our online system. So we're already implementing this. It's already starting to work. We're getting a much higher customer retention rate. People are really happy with the online system. There's a few more things to get sorted to make it absolutely fire. But ultimately, we want to have more customer intimacy where we know exactly what our customers are needing in their pantry. Those 20 SKUs that you're just constantly going through, those staple foods, we want to make it so that it's near automatic for you to have those refilled in your pantry, delivered to your door really, really easily with no barrier there. They will also have those 200 plus extra SKUs that the stores have. And an example of those SKUs is we're bringing out a range of cans. We've got 13,700 customers. They all buy canned products, chopped tomatoes, coconut cream, lentils, those kind of things. We're bringing out our own brand of those. Georgie and I, for example, with our two boys, go through 20 cans a month. That's all of those key ones. And we think that our customers are going to adopt these because they're going to be of that high quality organic level, but also not priced out of the market. So really excited for the online channel. We think that that's going to be one of our biggest growth areas, and the 2.0 stores are really going to reinforce that. I don't think I mentioned, but we're also injecting, and this is the first thing we'll get straight to with this capital, is we're adjusting the current stores with a few things that need to happen, which is we feel is going to allow for customers to have an easier shop and ultimately allow us to grow in that area. Yeah, before we get on to Q&A, I think, we set out in the beginning with GoodFor to build a network of sustainable stores that allowed consumers to shop without creating that environmental footprint, that negative environmental footprint. I think we've achieved that. We've built this brand that people really trust. It means sustainability, it means quality, and we're really excited to take our vision that we've got and take this brand and slowly to the next level. So I welcome all your questions.
Awesome, thanks guys. So we just start off with one question that came in before we started. What do you see as the key risk or key risks to successfully executing the growth strategy you just outlined and hitting those forecasts?
Yeah, I think business is incredibly difficult if you don't have the right team behind you, and ultimately we're going to win no matter what exterior forces are out there if we have the right team involved. So we've got a great advisory system through Advisory Works, through Early. We've got Ben there. We've got our senior leadership team, and we'll be taking on an independent director as well as another person on that external advisory board. And, we just need to execute on what we've planned, and having that network of people around us and that culture within our team is going to allow us to get there. I mean, that's ultimately the biggest risk to any business, but I think we've got the right setup to make sure we hit everything that we've planned to do.
I think one thing that you've said to me, James, over the last couple of months is just the amount of learnings that you guys have had and experienced for the last 4 years.
Yep.
And some of those, some of the risks to be successful and possibly, you've already learned from and going to use those as mitigants going forward. Is that fair?
Big time. Yeah. We started 4 years ago and we didn't know anything about retail. We've learned millions of different touch points that are going to help us get to this next stage. We've got, I can't speak highly enough of how important it is to have that clarity with the vision that you have. And we feel like all of our learnings have built that clarity and, and the confidence. You have to have the confidence there. So we're feeling we're set to go.
Awesome. And I mean, you got through COVID, which was, for retailers, almost kind of Armageddon for some people. So I think some of the learnings you've probably taken out of that have been able to be transferred into the online offering and accelerate that container vision as well, you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, COVID, our entire business almost shifted online, and, we didn't have the infrastructure there. We had a run rate of about $10 million for about a month there online. And, we feel like we learnt, years worth of experience there. And we immediately have set up our online to sort that, and are excited to kind of execute on those learnings.
Awesome. All right, we'll go to some of your questions from the audience now. Starting at the top. So talking about competition. So one of your major competitors, the Source bulk foods, wasn't mentioned. I'll just add a note there for the audience that the Source bulk foods were mentioned in the competitor matrix in the IM. But James, do you want to talk a little bit more about competition generally and the Source?
Yeah, we're in the grocery space, so we've got a lot of competition. The Source bulk foods was a really good influence for us to get started, and they're a great business. They're doing things differently to us. They're franchised, so we've decided not to franchise because we want to be nimble and hold on to that brand that expands beyond our core product of the stores. And we believe that route allows us to kind of be in our own space to a degree. I think that if we had gone down that route of franchising, it limits us, but not to say that the Source isn't a great business. And then we've got two massive giants in foodies and progressives, and they're always a threat there, but we're staying laser focused on what we're doing. We're focused on the pantry. We're focused on being the best in the world at that and delivering quality and sustainability. And I think if we stay in that space and have the right team around us, we're going to stand out, just as I think we have. I think GoodFor is an educator. People come to our website to learn about sustainability and learn about food and learn about health. I think that's what sets us apart.
And I think I've heard you say in the past, James, some of the ingredients or the source of the products are different between GoodFor and competitors. Is that right? You guys have got unique sourcing relationships and the only people to stock certain products.
Yeah. Georgie and I are foodies, and almost everyone in our company are foodies. And we've gone about creating our own products that are unique to us. We know that they've got special ingredients in them. So a lot of our products are commodity, and you can see them in other stores. But we have a huge range, and we'll continue to expand on that range of products that no one can copy. So I think that's what will set us apart as well.
Awesome. Right, this next one from Simone has a few questions within it, so we'll start at the top. It's about the container range. What competitor analysis have you completed in the container category?
Yeah, so there's a lot of competitors in the container category, hundreds, and we looked at all of them and looked at what space we're going to play in. We're playing in that really high quality premium space that has sustainability at its core. We've got a couple of really unique features to the containers that are a first. They have this customization, creativity side to them. We also looked outside of just containers to understand where we sit and to give ourselves confidence that we can execute. So there's brands like Keep Cup and Frank Green, which are coffee cups, reusable coffee cups. And there's actually thousands of coffee cup brands, reusable coffee cup brands in the world. And for some reason, Keep Cup and Frank Green have stood out. And it's because of the way they presented their brand, the materials that they've used, the design they've put into it, and the thoughtfulness they've put into their brands. And that's exactly where we sit. We sit in that thoughtful space. The Slowly brand is going to be so much more than just a container and a range of storage products. It's going to be a movement So, people again will look to Slowly as an educator in that sustainability space. And, there's no one really out there in the container space that has gone beyond just that physical product.
Yeah, awesome. And just a continuation of that question, the second part from Simone, what gives you confidence your existing customers will replace their existing container range in their pantries with Slowly?
I think that there's an element of these containers and the design of them and the functionality of them that, a lot of our customers will look at them in the beginning and go, I've got my own jars, I'm set up, that's all good, that's fine. But over time, I think the containers are going to be irresistible to purchase, just purely because of their functionality and their design. And I think our customers may incorporate, 4 or 5 of them to begin with. There'll be some customers that just have to have the whole lot and go 100 of them. But, over time, the containers will eventually make their way into our customers' pantries, and there'll be a big portion that do it straight away on a big scale.
Yeah, because I think one thing we haven't probably mentioned in the IM is that you guys have sold thousands of containers prior to the launch of the Slowly brand, right?
Yep.
And customers that have been part of the journey so far have been buying lower priced glass jars through GoodFor in the dozens, probably.
That's
right.
right.
The pantry's already set up, they're kind of used to using that system, and now you're going to ask them to replace them with more expensive ones.
Yeah. We all progress in life, and better products come on the market, and we've dreamt these up, and now they're becoming real. We have been manufacturing our own custom glass jars, and a lot of our customers have seen those as beautiful and something that they want to incorporate, even to the point where they've custom built their pantry to fit our jars. So I feel bad for them, maybe potentially having to restructure a little bit there. But at the same time, we're on this mission to create a circular economy, and we need to make that space so attractive. And these containers are going to be a really good catalyst for people to get into that. So, there might be a few casualties along the way with people having to rearrange their pantry, but I think the overall movement's a positive one.
Yeah. And I think something you probably haven't mentioned yet as well is that because you'll have them in store on display, and they're going to be built in sizes that are, they fit perfectly as a set, there's going to be an element of people, buying them because they fit together well, they look perfect together, and they're being constantly exposed to them, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. Awesome. So the last part of that question, 3 questions in one, was what contribution does Slowly have to EBITDA in FY24? And I can help answer that. Give me one moment. So just looking at the numbers, kind of without context, the EBITDA contribution from the Slowly business is just over 50% for total EBITDA in FY24. So it's a nice, easy one to answer. Do you want to give any context to that as well?
Yeah, so I think there has been a couple of questions around, the Slowly brand and the containers are going to be a really big part of our growth journey. We are really confident we can execute on these containers. So we don't see, that not being the case, that not being part of that growth journey. If we don't hit all of our forecasted numbers with the containers, we're still going to be in a good space. And, just sitting alone, GoodFor is still in a good space at that period through building the 2.0 stores and developing our current stores. But we're really confident that the containers are going to be what they look like in those forecasts. They're going to be a significant part of that journey.
Awesome. So we've got a couple other questions just about the containers, slightly different lenses. But have you guys heard of the brand Seed and Sprout in Australia?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're just other commenters that their container products in particular look like they could be similar, or?
Yeah, they are also glass.
Yeah.
But
we saw Seed and Sprout, and so Seed and Sprout purchased from a Chinese manufacturer. They have no rights to those containers. They have a glass base. They have a bamboo lid which has toxic resins in it, and they were actually an influence because they do look quite good, but they're nowhere near on the aesthetic and the functionality of what we've built. And also they just have a lot of design faults. They're a mass product. You see multiple different brands. They have no real IP there. So GoodFor is going to, Slowly's containers are going to be absolutely unique, and we're going to own that space.
Awesome. So just going on that pantry theme for one more question, and this is more of a suggestion maybe. Does the pantry range extend to a glass lunchbox, as we're finding this item hard to find?
There is multiple follow-up products with Slowly. The second of which is a spice container that we're incredibly excited about. And, the kitchen is, we can tackle the entire kitchen with this brand. So we'll move through containers in all sorts of uses. And our product designer, Scott Fitzsimons, is a genius. And he is, he's incredibly excited about the follow-up ranges.
Cool. So it's not going to be in the first range, but it could be in the second or third release.
Potentially. I think, lunchboxes, I agree, are really hard to find in the glass form. So I think it could definitely be
on
in
the cards.
future. Yeah.
Awesome. Good question. All right. Someone just wanted more clarification on the risks section. Could you expand on what are the threats? And I assume that means specifically, as opposed to just execution of strategy. So we did have a risk register in the IM as well, but I think some of those ones we identified that were really important were key person risk. So, any founder business is going to have a real focus and real drive from founders. So I guess good one to tackle first. What's your intention to, stay with the business and keep growing it? And then what happens if you get hit by a bus?
Yeah, so Georgie and I, we absolutely love GoodFor. We're going to be right in GoodFor, right through to whether or not we have a trade sale at some point, or right to the point where we are not necessarily needed, but we would love to be involved to execute on the mission of GoodFor and take it right through. With Slowly, exactly the same thing. We're really connected to the purpose of it and to the mission. So, we're not going anywhere. These two businesses are going to be firmly fixed in our lives for a long period of time. And I think in terms of us as founders and being drivers in the companies, that's absolutely true. We spend 24/7 thinking about these businesses, and we are key people in them. But we really look after ourselves, and we have built a team that understand our thinking and understand where we want to go. So we see if the two of us are in a tragic car accident at some point, I think that our senior leadership team will step up to the plate and continue on the mission. And we're going to build in that kind of senior governance to be able to help them if that time comes.
Yeah, cool. You've had some good additions to the team recently, right? Like another key risk that I think we identified in the IM was working capital. So obviously fitting out retail businesses is expensive, and it's not great for working capital because you normally have to pay for all that fit out up front.
Yep.
And then you've got payment terms with large companies that you need to grow and become more significant as a customer to then improve those working capital terms. So you've brought on a new financial controller.
Yep.
She has some really strong financial experience as an accountant for 7+ years with PwC.
Yep.
And you've had your VCFO, Matt Turnbull, who is also a director of Be Pure and I think a listed company on the NZX as well. Is there anything else kind of financially or working capital wise that you guys are aware of to mitigate that as a risk?
I think that, part of our strategy now is to really focus on this online business, which we see working and we see a lot of opportunity in. So it means less bricks and mortar retail stores and spending more time on the bricks and mortar retail stores that we have and the few that we open and making them really generate profit. So, in terms of working capital, I think we've planned out what we're doing with this capital. There's not going to be any curveballs there. So we're confident with what we're taking on is going to help us execute our plans, and bringing on this capital also is going to give us access to more debt if we need it. And I think we're pretty solid there.
Awesome. All right. So if anyone else has got any other questions about risks and mitigations, feel free to put them up. Otherwise, we'll leave that one there. Next question. If the mall shop, the one at New Lynn, didn't work out, how do you ultimately crack this arena so the culture changes for the good?
I think I know where they're getting. I think I know where they're getting to. They're saying if we can't go into a mall, all those people that go to a mall aren't going to interact with our brand.
Yeah.
And I think that in terms of our location strategy, we're going to probably be more prominent than being in a mall. I think our buildings that we enter are going to be very, very exposed, and there's going to be a lot of eyes on them. And I think our online system is going to give us reach into a huge audience that also potentially go into malls, and making that process so simple and actually affordable, where the people entering a mall are going to choose to do that anyway. We firmly believe that majority of the shop, in the short-term future, is going to be done online. With the growing data that we're receiving and the technology that's being produced, we want to save people time by clicking a button and having a sustainable package turn up at their doorstep, and that is not excluding people that are going into malls. So it could work for everyone.
And I think another maybe point that you've spoken with me prior is that maybe the Newland Mall outlet was opened, still quite early in GoodFor's journey, so people weren't aware of the brand and what the brand stood for and what you could buy at that kind of store. So therefore, the people that go into malls maybe were going past it, or they weren't having the same experience because of the lack of natural light, or the offering wasn't as premium as it was in Ponsonby or Takapuna or Mount Eden. Yeah,
we've learned a lot since the mall, and there was some obvious factors why it didn't work. It wasn't in the right location in the mall. It was not exactly the right shape that we would usually go for. There was so many little parts, even down to our staff not enjoying standing in unnatural light for 10 hours a day. That was a big factor, because our team that are on the floor are actually big influences on the feeling of the store. So there's so many reasons why it didn't work, and it doesn't just go for GoodFor in shopping malls. Shopping malls, a lot of brands are facing that reality as well. So I think it's better for everyone that we're outside of them.
Awesome. I think that probably answers that one. We'll keep going on the location questions. So how do you identify the right locations for growth? We talked a little bit about this, but maybe we could cover it in a little bit more detail. And are regional stores part of the growth strategy, or main centres only?
Definitely regional as well. We think that having an anchor GoodFor store in towns as big as 50,000 is going to be an amazing thing for that town. We're excited to go into some of the smaller regions, open this incredibly cool, sustainable store that people will really enjoy the experience of. And there's no reason why that sort of audience can't make that work. So we're excited to go into smaller regions, and it really does open up the amount of stores that we can do. We're still very carefully selecting what those regions are, but they're definitely a possibility. We're definitely starting the 2.0 stores in Auckland, but because we have done stores outside of Auckland, and we now understand how to run a remote store. Our Wellington store is our second highest performing store. Nelson's creeping up behind that as well. So we've got it to a point where we know how to work with our store leaders, make them own that store, and really represent the brand well. So taking a GoodFor 2.0 store down to Wellington, for example, is giving us access to the entire Wellington audience for that online strategy, because it'll act as a beacon for that for the brand.
And I think what you and I saw when we were in the Nelson store together the other day is that store is almost halfway in between the original stores and the 2.0 stores.
Yep.
Having been to all the stores now, the Nelson one stood out the most as the most enjoyable fit out and experience. Being there, more ability to kind of move in between the aisles, wider offering. Was that intentional, or was that by design, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so we had signed that lease in Nelson with a couple of really cool people down there called the Connings. They own the whole setup. They grow their own veggies and sell them through a really awesome veggie shop. And we saw that as a community that we wanted to be involved in. They said that they would build a building for us, and the store ultimately is bigger than our usual stores. It's got a lot more space to move around in. We would call it like a 1.3 store, and we still were limited on space, and we have become more clear on exactly what that 2.0 store was, as well as last year through COVID actually being a really hectic year. It is way more of an advance on our current stores, but the 2.0 stores will greatly surpass the experience that you get.
Yeah, I'd encourage anyone who's going to be in Nelson soon to go down and check that store out, because it'll give you a really good idea of what that 2.0 store is going to look and feel like. All right, next question. Do you have any more brand ambassadors coming up? Any more kind of household names, who are useful on social media for that millennial age group?
Yeah, so our brand Slowly, one of the biggest catalysts to people adopting the Slowly containers is going to be through ambassadors. There's an element of customization to the containers, which we can hand on to very particular ambassadors that we'll use, high profile people that suit the brand. And people will be able to go on and interact with what style of container they've chosen to have on our Slowly website, and we'll access their entire audience from that. So the Slowly brand, one of the core marketing strategies is pairing with very high profile ambassadors that are aligned with the brand. GoodFor, not so much. We've got Ricardo Christie, who's New Zealand's best surfer. He's on the world circuit last year. He's just a legend, and we love him being part of the brand. But in terms of that whole influencer side of things, we're very careful about who we choose, because the influencer side of things can be overused. We actually see our customers as being the ambassadors for GoodFor. They post on their social channels, and they're just passionately doing it for free. And I think that strategy actually works a lot better.
Yeah, and Ricardo, his whole life is kind of surrounded by organic and very wholesome activities out with his family surfing, so I think it works well.
Yeah.
Next one, selling non-online leads to a lot of transport emissions and packaging. How do you deal with that? So is that selling online? Sorry, a little typo. So selling online leads to a lot of transport emissions and packaging. How do you feel about that? Just to start off, we don't have the data in front of us, but one of the questions that was asked on the platform was about emissions caused by multiple shopping trips. And we do have some studies that we've been looking for and have read a couple that have actually mapped out the emissions saved via online shopping compared to doing multiple trips to the supermarket. So it's probably a contentious issue that James isn't going to have all the data in front of him for the moment. But you guys are obviously aware of that. What are you thinking about, and how are you kind of dealing with the online transport and packaging question?
Yeah, so we originally, one of the core things we started out with was the plastic packaging. That's fundamentally part of the business. But bigger than that, I think everyone's aware of it, is, the globe is heating up and we have a real threat from climate change. So this carbon side of things has actually become a really big factor. And it's actually been one of the driving forces behind our decision to move online. We believe that, our community will have 2 to 3 brands that they will purchase their groceries through. And, our vision is to have people purchasing online, that one courier van, taking thousands of packages around, doing a trip, dropping it off. It's 100% plant-based packaging. You've chosen as much or as little as you like. It's got organic product in it. And, we see that being a much more sustainable and low carbon form than going back and forth for little trips to a supermarket or to the stores. We would ideally like our customers who are shopping at our stores to be walking there or e-biking there, because they actually do right now live within a 3-kilometre radius of the stores, majority of them. So we see that one trip that, you've got your pantry staples for 2 weeks, that's a much lower impact than cruising around town in your car and going back and forth from stores.
Do you want to also mention the tree planting? Because that also offsets carbon.
Yeah, we don't really talk about the tree planting, but it's something we love about the business. Every time a shopper comes in, they contribute to 1/60th of a native tree being planted, and we plant the trees along with our customers, and we're actually sitting at 87 trees a week, and that's growing. We're being offered land left, right and centre that's in the QE2 Trust to be able to plant the trees, and it gets managed by external parties. So that's something we're really proud of, and that is a carbon offsetter. We probably don't talk about it enough, but we intend for that to be a really big part of the company as well, because taking the day off and actually sticking natives in the ground is really satisfying.
That's fantastic. I might have some room in my backyard for some of those. All right, Fiona has another one. She's on fire. Have you thought about investing in more technology like the Countdown Scan and Go app to make the in-store shopping experience easier?
Definitely. Because we want that element of being able to choose as much or as little as you like, it actually makes that process quite difficult. So we're focusing on the technology online. There's a big element to the stores, and what a lot of our customers say and what we feel when we shop in them is it's actually a really therapeutic experience to go in and slow down and scoop your food, choose wisely, get inspired by the food. And I think that, turning into one of these, million kind of camera stores where things are being kind of weighed in your shopping trolley, I just don't think it's what we want to do for the in-store experience. That online experience, we want it to be incredibly simple, but in-store, we want it to be so you walk into that store and you feel like you're in an absolute sanctuary, and you walk out of there a better person, which I think we've already achieved. I totally understandable that some people go in store and they're like, I want something now, and this is taking too long. But that's a small part of it.
Yeah, very cool. Just let's rip through some of these questions because we've got a lot to get through. Are all the jars in the 2.0 store, which I think is talking about the new spice jars and the pre-packaged stuff, are they all reusable? So the idea is that you buy the item in the jar and then start to use that and then refill it. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. Everything pre-packaged is reusable. The cans are an exception, and they do actually have a BPA-free plastisol lining inside of them, but they are recyclable. They do tend to get recycled more than just your normal plastic bottles, etc., and bags. So the only reason we're compromising on those cans is because our shoppers absolutely want them. They do eat the products in them, but they don't have the means to be able to get those products in any other form.
Nice one. Okay, so another quick one. The investment is in GoodFor and Slowly, just so we're clear. So it's a group. Slowly is completely 100% owned by GoodFor, and this offer is in GoodFor, so you'll be getting access to both. Next question: why are you financing through Snowball rather than a bank? So good question, Brian. I think, yeah, we've been working with GoodFor for a while, and they've got banking relationships and loans with banks already, and they've decided to raise additional capital just to balance out that debt to equity ratio. And that's, if you read through the financials in the IM, you'll see that it's clear as well. Is there anything you want to add to that, James?
Yeah, I think that, we're with Kiwi Bank at the moment, and they've been really helpful guiding us through opening the stores that we've opened. But Kiwi Bank said, it's time for you guys to bring on some capital. We'll support you into the future, but you need to balance out your balance sheet and, build some stability there. And, it also is a much more logical way to do it, having that strong balance sheet for growth.
Yeah, and I think we've also talked about, because you've got this big active customer base, there was an opportunity via this retail offering to give them the chance to buy shares in the business. Yeah. And then you kind of build this ambassadorship via your shareholder base, being customers.
Big time. Yeah, we had plenty of options to raise capital through Snowball. We could have done it through a couple of investors, but ultimately we decided let our passionate customers get involved, and they have. Thank you to all of you who have invested so far. It's awesome to see.
Awesome. Here's a good one. From Francesca: you work as a couple, but what are your individual talents?
Yeah, so I'm the managing director of GoodFor, and I think my talent is I'm probably the visionary and come up with a lot of the creative angles we take with GoodFor and a lot of the design. And Georgie, I'll let you explain. Georgie.
Yeah. Well, through the journey of GoodFor so far, I've raised 2 boys on the side. They're 2 and 4 years old. But at the moment, I'm in charge of HR, people, culture. So, in charge of all the hiring, firing, not that there's too much of that. Basically just really making our team culture strong and getting to know every single team member face to face. We've just found it's a huge part of it when kind of the owners and founders are involved in each store and they know everybody by name. And yeah, we hope to continue that. So
yeah, Georgie definitely has a special talent. Her coming out of the cloud of the 2 boys and really getting her teeth stuck in. It's been incredible how that culture has aligned, and every single person coming into the business now, Georgie just has this incredible ability to pick the right people. So. That's kind of our strengths there.
Yeah, awesome. Nice question. Nice to kind of talk about the individuals rather than just the business sometimes. Yeah. Next question: will you ever sell fresh food other than the bread? And I'm referring to the question asked by someone else about meat, whether or not you'd sell that. I personally would not invest if so. Very clear little point.
Yeah, we're incredibly focused on the pantry. We want to be the best in the world at it. We want to have people look at our brands and think quality and sustainability and really trust. We want to be one of the great brands in that space. We don't want to play in that supermarket space. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's taking on fresh products. We actually only had bread because a couple of friends of ours, through COVID, they got shut down. We said, let's take on some bread, and customers did like it. It looks really good there. And, we love getting that daily bread from GoodFor. But, we think our game is the pantry, and we know that we can, if we stay laser focused there, we can be really unique in the space.
So that's, no to veggies, no to meat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Nice. Georgie obviously cuts to the point, and James has got the vision. Will slowly be exclusively sold in GoodFor stores?
No. So the way slowly works is we have the ability to be nimble into other retail stores, and they're not going to be the typical retail stores that you think. So through GoodFor, you'll see the slowly containers. There'll be a very big display on them, and you can interact with them. You can interact with the website, but you can't actually physically buy the containers in store. And with that model, we can actually go into any retail store with an aligned brand. An example would be Allbirds. We would take that exact same setup into their store, and you would interact with the containers. It'd be a great feature for a brand like that to have. And you can purchase them there, but they get sent to your house. So it allows us to move really quickly through retail stores with partners that align with our values. You're not going to see us in Farmers or the Warehouse. We're not going to be in those department stores.
Cool. And that'll vary, obviously, market by market as well, right?
Yep.
New Zealand will be different to Australia to the US.
Yep.
All right. Getting close to the end now. So we're just trying to get through the rest of these. What strategy do you have to prevent competitors' entry to the market? So maybe we'll consider that in the context of existing competitors growing and then new competitors, both for GoodFor and slowly entering the market. So maybe GoodFor on the ground in New Zealand, and then maybe after that we talk about slowly.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
So what strategy do you have to prevent competitors entering the market? Maybe we just split them up by business.
Yep. So with GoodFor, again, we're staying incredibly focused on who we are. We're not going to move into any other space, and because of our experience, we know how we can establish ourselves in that bricks and mortar retail environment and online to, basically stay in front. We're going to continue on the education experience and the brand going beyond that core product, which I think is going to allow us to stay well and truly in front. With slowly, it's more or less the same thing. I think the pillars of the brand, if we can keep those really solid there, and build that brand out, that movement brand, we're gonna be able to cut through and be recognised as that premium functional and designer brand in that space. So I think ultimately it comes down to us in both instances, just sticking to our knitting, keeping our head down in our space, and making sure that we're executing exactly what we want to do, what we've planned on doing, with keeping an amazing culture and really high quality, trustworthy products.
Now, I think just from our previous conversations, the funding round that you're doing now, having $2 million as the target to raise for this round, is going to give you some really good ammo to defend from competitors, because they're going to be funding their business from cash flow or from loans. It's difficult to raise capital. Not saying they won't be able to do it, but you'll have that first mover advantage.
Yep.
And then I think the 2.0 stores you've spoken about are going to be in more prominent retail locations, and that is going to be the brand that people are familiar with before anything else.
Yeah, we just have to continue to have that innovation mindset. We're not looking at other companies and taking what they've got. We're looking at our customers and what they need and innovating in the space. So without a doubt, we're going to have other companies around us taking on board what we're doing. But we feel like with our core value of innovation, we're going to continue to stay ahead of the pack there.
Cool. So we've just hit 1:30. We'll just take the last question. Do you have the patent on the slowly containers? And if yes, and then Z, only a bit more about global. So do you have patents, or what IP do you have around the containers?
Yeah, so we can't get a utility patent for the containers, much like a lot of brands in that reusable coffee cup space can't get that either. We can get a design patent, which we're working through. And again, it's all about speed. It's all about delivering on your brand's promise and, just sticking to those values that we have. So, no matter what competitors enter the market, our containers are going to be very distinguishable. The brand is going to have that third element of movement behind it. And that's why, regardless of a patent, there's a lot of great companies that can't patent their products, and they have copycats, but they stay ahead of the pack for sticking to their values and moving quickly.
Yeah, and I guess the key thing is just about trademarks, which you have in New Zealand, is that right? And proceeding to get them globally, or what's the plan with trademarks?
Trademarks on the brand?
Yeah, on the Slowly brand.
Yeah, so there's still a bit of work to be done there, but we're working through it. And, I think by the time we launch in February, we'll be completely set for that side of things.
Nice. All right, we are bang on 1:31. I want to thank everyone for their time today. And just to reiterate, because there's been so many new people and a lot of people engaged in this offer so far, if you've got any follow-up questions or any questions about how the investment process works, feel free to reach out to me, alex@snowballeffect.co.nz. Likewise, if you've got any questions that haven't been answered today that you weren't able to ask, feel free to email those through and I can send them on to James and Georgie to get back to you. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Much appreciated.